Okay, you guys, happy Wednesday. Yesterday, I thought it was Wednesday. I freaked myself out. I thought I forgot the whole event. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not in front of my computer right now. But today is Wednesday and we are here on time. Let me pull up the group on Facebook and make sure we can be seen and heard. Those of you who are in the HAI membership, you guys can hop on live. I dropped that link in the HAI membership Facebook page. So feel free to do so. Say hello. Hi, Diane, Betty, Heidi. Great to see you guys here. Thank you for being here. It's going to be a great day. Today we have Michele Allen of Monkey's House. I'm a big fan of Monkey's House because I love what she does. She brings animals that are terminally ill, that have a death sentence, back to life. They give them their bucket list. They get to love them to the end, and they never die alone. So, Michele, thank you for being with us. You are based out of New Jersey, and I appreciate everything you do. I cannot wait to hear your stories, because when you have cases that everything has failed on, you get to try extra stuff. So feel free to share that with us and let us know. Sorry, I'm all teary-eyed. let us know when you want me to share your photos, because those photos are jaw-dropping amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Poppy, thank you for having me on. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we pull our dogs from shelters. We don't take dogs from the public. Sometimes another rescue group will pull a dog that turns out to be a hospice dog, and the foster may not be up to a hospice experience, and they'll transfer them in if we have space. So we're doing the best we can to help homeless dogs that really have no avenue for a live exit from shelters.
All right, Michele, hold on. Let me hit the gallery view and change your view too. Do you want me to share those photos and go through your victory stories? Do you want to give a little backstory before I?
Could you pull up the menu with the big?
I can totally do that. Let me do that right now. I have it hopefully ready to go. I should have it pulled up. We'll see. We'll see. There's us instead. And let me enlarge this. And well, that's a little large. Does everybody see my screen? Okay. And
of her by any chance?
Let's see if I can open the whole thing.
That was her when we shaved her. It took us 3.5 hours to shave her for surgery.
That's she had enormous.
14.5-pound mass on her side.
See, I had the whole case. Of course, I didn't check and see if I had them all.
Well, plus I said it to you and I'm not technical.
I keep hearing a funny noise. And you guys let me know if you can hear us, if my audio is working. And here we go.
I'm just looking for some pictures of her with hair on her.
Okay.
Start talking. And this is Harley, and she's a very sweet Malamute that was found tied to a tree in an affluent neighborhood. And she had this huge basketball on her side. It was really awful. It was really awful. She was a lovely dog. This is another dog we'll talk about in a second, LA. Okay. So Harley is all the masses. I'm sorry I didn't send pictures of her with her hair. She's like, you know, Poppy, I can see them towards the end.
Okay, let me grab those. Tell me when. You said a Malamute.
Yeah, so she's black and gray.
She's black. Oh, she's black and gray with the Valentine's Day.
Yep, she was wearing glasses. Yep, that's her.
Okay, cool. I love that photo, actually.
Right, and that's her. So we already saw a picture of her abdomen shaved. She had a fibrosarcoma. Dr. Judy Morgan was our vet, and let me tell you, you know, she talks about nutrition. She talks about everything. She is a kick-ass surgeon. And she went in and, you know, I'm a retired registered nurse, and I watched her look at the mass and decide where she should do the incision. She was incredible, just amazing at what she did. Harley had this 14.5-pound obvious basketball hanging off of her side. She also had mammary cancer, both sides. She also had a softball-sized mass on one of her knees. We decided to tackle the basketball first. And when she first came, her lab work sucked. But we do a lot with food therapy. We do a lot with herbs. We do a lot to help her, to help stabilize her. And then we were also prepared. We transfused her during the surgery. And she came through it with flying colors. I brought her home that afternoon. They did use every surgical pack. There's Dr. Morgan a few years ago.
That, you know what? To see her standing next to that mass is insane.
So, you know, she did so many amazing things. She can think on her feet and change plans really fast. And, you know, here we are years later, and she's retired, and she tells me that I made her brave. I'm like, wait, I did not. This was the mass, and it had a million veins feeding it. So it was very vascular, very bloody. And you can see that there's just a few clamps there. She took it out. She wanted to cut it up and look at it and then send it out for biopsy. But we actually used every surgical pack in the entire office to get this sucker off. And there's Harley post-op. And again, you can see this was a few years ago, 2017, I think. And this was Harley post-op, and she came home with me that day. I did sleep with her in one room to keep a really close eye on her. I'm very careful when we do these massive surgeries. I never want to lose a dog to complications. I never want to do more surgery than what their body can handle. I want to give them quality, longevity. I'm human. I of course want to give them longevity, but what I want to give them is quality, a very good life. So we started with this big mass, and here you can see, I just told you she was a kick-ass surgeon. Can I say kick-ass? She was an exemplary surgeon. You can barely see the incision here. We had to keep Harley quiet for a little bit, but what's so amazing is, for as long as she had that big thing on her, she was up and moving. She jumped up on the sofa. She laid on her side. I would have needed 2 physical therapists and 10 pillows to help me negotiate after that.
That is amazing. And it's almost like she had puppies, like to lose that 14-pound tumor.
14.5.
That's bigger than a bowling ball.
I called it a cheese wheel. Yeah, it was huge. It was huge.
So I imagine when you got that off, it was her best day ever.
You know what? Harley got into the car. Like, we assisted her because we didn't want to stress her, but she got into the car. She was 110 pounds, and she just got in the car. Like, she was good. She was good. And what was always really nice with Dr. Morgan, whenever I brought a dog in for surgery, I didn't drop them off at 8 and they went in the back and sat in a crate. They were on my lap with me until they were sedated and ready for surgery. If we weren't sure they were if the odds weren't stacked in their favor of them making it through the surgery, I got to be with them while they were completely put under. So Harley had 3 active cancers, 3. The fibrosarcoma, the mammary masses, and then this tendon cancer that was like a baseball size on the side of her leg. She was on some Chinese herbs. She was on a homemade diet. And then we put her into keto. And this was 2017, before keto was really cool. And Harley actually lived in Forever Foster. And I was going over the math with her foster mom and saying, this makes no sense. I can't see how this dog is going to live on a tablespoon of cabbage, you know, along with the fats and everything. And Dr. Morgan got involved and we were working this out. And we decided to go on the keto diet too, so that we could experience it because it was so foreign to us at that time. And what was really cool was all of a sudden we got keto brain. We could multitask. We were smart. We were losing weight without exercising. We were superhuman, but it also gave us options. She's still a dog who was living with illness. And on the days when she didn't want to eat, when they're in ketosis, you can't just offer them anything. You need to keep them, you need to keep them in ketosis. So, so we learned about pork rinds. Now, you don't normally say give a dog pork rinds, but this was something we could do that smelled good, that crunched, that would get her to want to eat. So after all of this, she lived 19 months, 19 amazing months. And this she was very high maintenance. She was very vocal about her needs, and she truly loved her life. And I feel like it's a victory, Poppy. I feel like we won.
I totally like, how was she before the tumor removal compared to how was she afterwards?
Depressed and lethargic. Loving, sweet, but she didn't move around very much. She would pick up a giant ball, but then drop it. Afterwards, she was good to go. She was good to go.
Fully mobile, got to play, live her best life. Michele.
Jumping on the sofa was one of the most incredible things. We would just cry. I mean, she would jump. She couldn't do that before. Now she could jump on the sofa. She could lay on that side. Like her whole world had opened up to her.
That's amazing.
And she loved every minute of her life. She truly did.
Michele, so you guys did Chinese herbs with Dr. Judy handled the whole thing.
Yes.
And so you did a ketogenic diet before keto was cool.
Mm-hmm.
You did Chinese herbs. Anything topical?
Not in this instance. Nothing topical in this instance. And then meticulously clean diet. Well, keto, there's really, a tablespoon of cabbage is the carbs that's in the diet. But exercise when she was up to it. When she wasn't up to it, there was no exercise. She was not a kind of dog that you could take to it and put on a treadmill. But she did like her walks in the woods.
Okay, so some people are saying they can't hear me. Let me switch to a different speaker. Let me know, Tina, if you can hear at all. Give me a thumbs up, you guys, if you can hear or not. Waiting, you can. On Facebook, I unplugged every time I tried to use a really nice high-tech equipment, I seem to have sound issues. So then I end up just using the computer. I try to turn these into podcasts. I have a gal lined up to help me with all these to turn them into podcasts. And so I'm trying to use more pristine equipment, but it always seems to go south. So 19 more months, amazing. I unplugged my speaker. You guys, thank you for letting me know you can hear. And Chinese herbs, nothing topical, best life ever. And just
we did do CoQ10, artemisinin, some of the traditional anti-cancer things. We did turmeric. We did golden paste, actually. But yeah, nothing crazy. Nothing. Well, the keto was crazy for us. But aside from that, nothing crazy. And 19 amazing months for a dog living with three active cancers. 3
different types of cancers. And I think it's really interesting. I personally have never had success with artemisinin. But I know other people that have. And so, you have to weigh every case as individuals and go, okay, so what actually responded to the artemisinin on that? We might not know, but comparing notes from cancer case to cancer case, we might be able to get some consistencies and understanding about the efficacy of things and what it's good for and what it's not good for. Okay, Michele, thank you for sharing that. What's our next story?
The next one is the yellow pit mix.
Okay, let me make sure I can move this around. This
Sorry, I thought in order. I must have messed something up.
Oh, don't worry about it. We'll get it. This dog right here?
That girl right there. Yep.
Okay.
So this dog was a frequent flyer at a local shelter. She would come in. The owners would reclaim her many times over the years. And each time she came in, she looked worse and worse and worse. And this time when the shelter called me and said, if they aren't here, can you take her? Can you please take her? And I didn't really have space, but sometimes shelters need to win. Shelter workers need to win. And I said, sure. Her name is LA. I was in LA in a trailer with 3 producers talking to me about speaking when I'm negotiating like a quarantine hold for her and everything. And I said, that's it. Her name is LA. So she came to us full of lumps and bumps. First off, sweetest dog in the world, but full of lumps and bumps. What she had was hemangiosarcoma and very high grade mast cell tumors. She was grateful for everything we did. She was grateful when I put fresh water down for her. She loved life and she loved people. So the first thing we did was address the hemangiosarcoma. The first thing we did was address her blood work. And so we're always big on straightening out, supporting kidneys, getting everything straightened out, the liver, anything else that was her. And again, that's baby Judy there.
Well, and it's so fun to see Judy with dark hair.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, when I saw her with her white hair, I said, you had that beautiful color. Like, I mean, it's a beautiful white hair. But yes, so that was her at her office, and that was her examining LA, and you can see the lumps and the bumps. We decided initially not to go after them while we were figuring out the hemangiosarcoma. For anyone not familiar with it, hemangiosarcoma is a very, very, very aggressive cancer that is actually of the blood vessels, but it can start in different places. It likes to start in the spleen. It can start in the heart. It can also start on the skin. And there's no signs. Your dog can have a physical exam and have blood work and be fine and keel over the next day from hemangiosarcoma. There are breeds that are at risk. There are certain people that do ultrasounds quarterly to try to stay on top of it. But there's not a lot you can do. Oh, sorry, my little chihuahua is photobombing. There's not a lot to do, but we had the advantage of knowing things were wrong with her and trying to put her things into place. I wanted to show this picture because this was also at Dr. Morgan's office. And I would bring dogs beds from home. I would bring dogs that didn't have appointments so that they could just go to get used to it could just be a cool place to go. They would score treats off of the staff. It made it just another day. And sometimes when they really got used to it, it was a car ride, it was treats, it was a whole activity in and of itself. Also, LA, she loved big dogs and little dogs, and she always laid in the tiniest beds. I wonder if it's like me with a distorted body image where like I look at a size 12 jeans and think, oh, I can do that. And I can't even get my ankle into it. But so in trying to normalize her journey, I try to make every day a regular day, but dress it up in the best way that I can. There she was laying in a teeny tiny bed. And we had plenty of big beds, but this was the bed that I had brought with me to the office. Dr. Morgan did order an ultrasound of her abdomen just to see what was going on. And here, if we can just see, she's got these bumps. And Dr. Morgan was explaining to me that this is a gallbladder meridian, this one here. I want to say it's gallbladder 23, but don't quote me because it was a long time ago. And these 2 suckers up here turned out to be high-grade mast cell. But this was just a side. And this is when you have a dog who's a hot mess, you have to sort through and pick your battles wisely because you want to win. you want them to come out of this and have good days. So when the spleen was enlarged, the first thing we did was a splenectomy. Her spleen, which to be not that big, was the size of a frying pan.
Is that the dog right here?
That's,
That's wow.
And
That is the size of a frying pan.
yeah, and so it was good that we got that out. Getting the spleen out when they have hemangiosarcoma does not get it all. It does not stop it from spreading. What it does is stops the spleen from rupturing. That's what it does. They're still going to have hemangiosarcoma. Some dogs are living years. Generally, I think 89 days is the predicted lifespan without further intervention. But there are dogs without chemo living years with hemangiosarcoma. But the purpose of getting the spleen out is so that they don't have a splenic rupture, which is an emergency situation. And back when I first started, if their spleen ruptured, they had less than a 7% chance of surviving surgery. Things have improved a whole lot since then, but that's tough on a family to have their dog be fine, have it collapse, then have to put down $10,000 and maybe still lose their dog. So, excuse me, survival rates during surgery, ruptured spleen have improved quite a bit, but I like to not have emergency surgeries. I like to be very proactive and not worry about this. So, and interestingly enough, I'm sure your group is familiar with Yunnan-Bayal, the Chinese herb that stops internal bleeding. Okay, so Dr. Morgan would give to her extra Yunnan-Bayal preoperatively, interoperatively, and postoperatively to control the surgery, the bleeding during surgery. This is LA, and I just want to show some of the beauty. You know, people hear that we're a hospice, and they think it's sad. And you know, these dogs didn't grow up together. They didn't share, you know, years of vacations and fun walks, and you know, they're all kind of new. But LA, this was another one of our guys. She just absolutely adored this dog, and he was not doing well. And on his bad days, you have to stop kissing me right now.
Oh my gosh, you have a fan.
Yeah, my fan. Well, on his bad days, she would lay right next to him. And dogs' ability to show love and nurturing and support, I mean, their kindness to each other on their bad days is extraordinary. And I like to share those moments whenever I can, because, you know, we say they're sentient beings. They feel pain, they feel love, they feel loss. They feel everything. And they're just incredible. And this was her buddy Bullwinkle, and she loved him. And he was having a really bad day. His issues, although he had a couple different cancers, his issues were pulmonary hypertension, and that's why there's a fan in front of his face. That was LA after her one surgery. So I don't think I meant for that picture to be there, but that's LA.
I can move it along.
Loved. This was during the euthanasia of the coonhound in the back. And this picture was taken by our euthanasia vet, who was on his stomach and using the back leg of the coonhound as a vein. This was all of us being there, and LA was right next to him. You know, people say, should our dogs be there? Is this going to traumatize them? I let them, if they're not in the room, it's because they're going to be disruptive. I don't want anyone being disruptive. This is the moment of the animal that's passing that belongs to them. But I always allow them to come in and smell, to just understand stuff. But LA was by his side the whole time, and it was just amazing. And he was a very special guy. And when his time came, volunteers came out just to make sure we try to send them off with as much love as we can muster. And then we cry a whole lot.
Oh, Michele, that is so precious that she just was faithful to him.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How special is that? And this dog was rejected multiple times at a rescue.
Yes.
And she was no harm.
She was amazing.
So wild. I cannot believe that. That is so incredible. So when you took out the splenitic rupture, I don't know what the or the spleen without the rupture, you guys, who pays for all this? This is amazingly awesome that you do this, but it's crazy expensive, I'm sure.
It is crazy expensive. We're privately funded, so we have people that donate monthly. We have people that donate off an Amazon wish list. It's all private donations, and we're so grateful for people that support us. So in this picture, we took out our spleen, and it did come back, and it was hemangiosarcoma, and so I do allow myself a moment to cry, to curse, to freak, but then there's a plan. And I mean, like I start adding different supplements into their supplement sleeves, making sure that I'm covering all the bases that I can. And we're doing this because we want to give her a better life. And she never looked great. She was very loving to be around her. You could see how special she was, but in pictures, she doesn't. And in this picture, we get her spleen out, and she starts to have really bad spinal arthritis, bridging spondylosis. So while that looks like crap, that is not painful. It did not improve with acupuncture. It was just part of her life, because she was continuing on to live.
I think it's great that you drove home the point that removing the spleen or removing a tumor doesn't mean you're removing the disease. You're removing the disease expression. And
Mhm.
I hear stories all the time where people are like, oh, we went to our vet, had the tumor removed. My dog's cancer free now. I'm like, who told you that? Like, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but very few cancers are isolated and encapsulated unless you catch it really, really early, which I hope that's the point of all of this, you guys, is early detection, prevention, and options for wins. So we're trying to equip all of you to avoid this. But
Yes.
Michelle, you get the dumpster dogs, the worst of the worst. And
Yes.
and the dogs with absolutely no hope. So you basically have nothing to lose.
Right. Right. And we make so you know how every day you say, oh, we're going to walk this loop today because we're tired of walking the other loop, and I'm low on bully sticks. Like you're forming your plan every day. We formulate plans of love every day, and this was pre-pandemic when we had more volunteers. People would say they had pork chops on sale, and and so I brought some for LA. If you want to just go back to that, that was so this was my husband and I. She had not yet had a bleed. She had not yet collapsed. And we had just made plans to take our first vacation in about 10 years. And it was a nutrition thing. It wasn't really a vacation. And doesn't this sucker start to look like it's about to explode? And I didn't want to do surgery before I left. I'm and we didn't know it was mast cell. I don't go sticking, I don't stick needles and everything unless I have a plan. But this was growing. So we were going to address it the second I got back from vacation. While I was on vacation, LA had her first bleed, and that is a complication from hemangiosarcoma, where they can look disoriented, they can look wobbly, or they can just collapse. Sometimes their gums are white. It can be very distressing to see. Or it can be something that you catch early and you're just on the ball. And there's action to be taken. For us, we increase the Union Bayal, the yellow capsules. We also give homeopathic phosphorus. In her case, we gave her some fluids. And it was really funny because I was in California and they said LA was by the front door, and all of a sudden she fell over nothing. And I tell everybody, my volunteer, I have everything labeled here, extremely well organized, so that if you come into my house and there's an emergency, I can tell you where everything is. and even how everything is labeled on how to use it. So, but my volunteers, I guess they didn't process the whole thing. And they said, how did you know that she was having a bleed? And really, she was laying on the floor. She was breathing heavy. Her gums were not horribly pale, but they were not pink. And within a few hours, she pinked up. She was moving around. And I said, don't encourage any movement. You know, anyone that wants to sit still, you know, just plant your finger in her ear and just give her lots of ear rubs. But they thought I was kind of magic at that. But I had been waiting for the leads, knowing that they would come. I don't dread it. I don't focus on it, but I am aware of it.
Now was that post spleen
removal? Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so thank you for going over the capability of what a bleed out looks like, and the fact that your dog didn't die that day, right?
Right.
You
right.
have
from the first
and union buyout. You didn't use the red pill, you used the yellow pills.
So I'll do the red pill if they start to get shocky. That's you know, if the blood is, you know, if they don't have enough to circulate and perfuse their organs, then I'll use the red pill. But for us, we do the yellow pills like every 3 hours. The homeopathic phosphorus, you know, I struggle so much with homeopathy, and I realized you're so good with it. From being a nurse, I'm very linear, you know, 2 pills every 8 hours. So the homeopathic phosphorus, we give 2 just in their pouch, every 15 minutes for an hour, and then twice for the, you know, twice after that. And then I evaluate after that. And I had a friend call me frantic. She was at a hospital up north about 2 hours from her house, and her dog was diagnosed with hemangio, and she was told to put it down. It was having an active bleed. And she called me crying. She said no, and the dog was in her car and not looking good. And I said, find a place that has homeopathy and just get the phosphorus. And I said, just keep sticking it in her mouth. And like she did for like the whole way home, and the dog got out of the car on its own.
Wow. Wow. I love that story so much, because there's so many times where people call me late in the evening, not too late, and I can say, go run to your store, go grab this homeopathic remedy. You're going to be okay. And they usually are.
Yeah. Now I want to emphasize, because we are specifically talking about hemangiosarcoma, if your dog has a bleed and you're treating it, if they're not getting worse, they're doing okay. It's not like they should be up in 20 minutes. They may be out for a day. They may not pee for a day. If they're not getting worse, they're holding their own. Once they get up, you want to be very careful. You don't want to encourage movement. It's a very frail, tiny scab in the middle of their guts, and you don't want to dislodge that. So, you know,
thank you for that.
When she takes out of the car, I'm like, no, you know, like, yay, but no.
I have a theory that hemangio is often vaccine induced. Maybe I can't say that. I'm like, after I said, I'm like, oh, maybe I can't say that on Facebook, but I've used in hemangio cases like thuja, ledum, and phosphorus, and actually had tumors just plop off in 3 days. And
Wow.
those dogs like live for a while, and they're like stage 4 and decrepit. And I was shocked that this one gal calls me and she's like, the tumor just fell off on the floor. I'm like, what?
Yay.
And I'm like, it just popped off. She goes, it's bleeding a little bit. I'm like, probably go to the vet. And so the vet was like, this will grow back. This is highly aggressive. Never grew back. Dog had some urinary tract issues and was older, but got to live out its life too. So the beauty of homeopathy, you guys, if you don't know homeopathy, I believe everybody should, and FDA is trying to shut it down. Whole Foods no longer has a homeopathy department. They have removed it under all this pressure, and several homeopathic companies have been pressured so much by FDA that they've close their doors too. So I'm gonna try to find, there's a petition that always rolls around for homeopathy to save homeopathy. I have a conspiracy theory about homeopathy. I don't want to share it with you guys on this Facebook Live, but if you can sign that petition to prevent homeopathy from being removed from our ability to go to the grocery store, the Sprouts Farmers Market, Vitamin Shop, any of your local health food stores, please sign that petition, because it might be you in the middle of the night that needs to run to those stores before they close to save your dog's life. So please, 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 side note.
Excellent side note, because we're losing our tools. We're
Yeah.
losing our tools.
Absolutely. And same if you're a horse person or a cat person, all of the above. It works on all mammals. It works on birds, not so much on fish. You guys, I've had no success on fish, but I heard Dr. Marlene Siegel, I think, did actually save a fish with homeopathy. Mad respect on that, you know? So.
Yeah. Are there more pictures?
Oh, absolutely. Let's get them going on.
All right. So after we got back from California, we had that mass actually ruptured while I was in California. I'm looking to, I think, yeah. So that did turn out to be a high grade mast cell, as did the spot that looks like a scar above it. And we had that done. I want to say I got back like on the 5th of June, had that removed on the 6th. Dr. Morgan did it while she was standing. It was like 5 minutes of anesthesia. She said it was the fastest surgery she'd ever done in her life. She didn't really want to take a dog that wasn't that stable and, you know, do this big surgery. Sent it out for pathology. And within 4 or 5 days, LA wasn't looking great. And it was getting ready to be a weekend. So we brought LA in to be seen, and her partner saw us and did some blood work, did an exam, said, you know, she's just a little punky, just kind of, you know, watch her. And she did say that the biopsy came back as a high grade mast cell tumor. And because LA wasn't feeling good, I had asked a few volunteers to come with me because we have fun. The energy is fun. We laugh, we giggle. The dogs have more fun. And I didn't know if this was going to be a bad visit, and I wanted LA to have the best time. So she had a volunteer in the back, you know, rubbing her ears. I think there's more pictures. Maybe if we went the other way.
Yeah, let's check it out.
So
I wanted to comment about that photo, because there's a lot of dogs where people just blow something like this off and just think it's a sarcoid or some sort of scab or like an allergy.
I think it's the other way, Poppy.
Okay.
All right, we passed it.
Tell me when.
Well, you know what, right here where there's, let's keep going a little bit more. Okay, right here where we see her standing kind of bent. That was it, as it ruptured. That was what it looked like. And it was just horrible looking. She didn't seem painful from it. And then the very next picture, if we could move over.
And did you use a topical on that?
I actually did. When it was bleeding and oozing, I actually opened up a yellow Union Bayal to stop that. And then I did put some golden paste for skin on top of that, because I didn't know what all that bubbling was, but it was like bubbling all around it. It was not cool. So this was it removed, and you can see there's this little tiny dot right here. And I was doing a dressing change and kind of dotting things off and cleaning them up. And I pushed on that spot very gently, and this black stuff started spurting out. So I video it for like 10 seconds. And if it's a hematoma, it needs to come out. It's fine. But this was weird. And I'm a retired nurse. I know what blood looks like. I sent the video to Dr. Morgan and I said, "Is this blood?" And she says, "I have no idea, but stop it." Which I guess gave me a more respect for mast cell, but it doesn't really follow any rules. It can do anything. It can be in any shape. And don't go after it unless you're going to kill it. You don't take little stabs at it. But that was quite an experience. And we'll see in the rest of the pictures, none of this hair ever grew back. This is her on a walk. So we have a small farm here. We used to have a horse farm. So now it's just a farm, and she loves her walks. The whole point of these surgeries, of giving her medications through the bleeds, of special diets, is to give them a good life. And so walking, smelling, being out with her buddies, she had a good life. That was important to me. Here she is, and we're at a vet's office here, and she's sharing water with one of her little 7-pound buddies. Very loving dog and very supportive of them. Here she is at the beach. Now, if you have a dog who has hemangiosarcoma and has not had their spleen removed, this is how you want to carry them. You know how we kind of grab them under the arms, or and like kind of under the groin, and we end up putting pressure on their spleen, and you can rupture just from doing that. So we didn't know, between the mast cell or anything else, we didn't know what was in her gut. So we always kind of carried her by the chest and under the rump to try to minimize any extra pressure in the abdomen. And we had taken her to the ocean. She'd never been. She was from the center of Pennsylvania. And we wanted to take her to the ocean. She was having a good day, and this was important to us. So my hubby carried her to the water's edge.
That is so sweet. I
There
didn't,
she was.
what wisdom to carry her like that. I wouldn't have thought of that, actually. So now I know.
Now you know. Well, and it's so funny. I mean, what do we do with heavy dogs? She wasn't that heavy. I want to say she was 60 pounds, but well, I'm almost 60 years old. To me, that's really heavy now. And you get half of them in, and then you get the other half of them in. When they have these kinds of cancers where you don't know what's on the inside, you do not want to be putting pressure on the actual abdomen. But he carried her to the water's edge so that she didn't spend her energy going through the sand, so that she didn't overexert herself. But right here, it was cool. The sand was firm, and she was able to enjoy a little walk on the beach. And she really did enjoy it.
That's so sweet.
And this is her back in that same bed and you can see that spot never healed.
Isn't that weird? I've seen that in dogs where they've gone through surgeries and their immune system's so compromised that the hair never grows back right.
Yeah. And at the time when I said we took her to just to be seen because she was feeling icky, that was in June of 18. And at that time, one of Dr. Morgan's associates was working, and one of my volunteers, I never asked how long they have. I don't believe in that. I believe that every day is a gift, and we are making the most of it. But at that point, she said, with this, I would say not more than 6 weeks. This is my personal dog, Sora. She and LA were besties, and that was them working a volunteer over for some food. See that old lady charm in his heart. This was her. So I don't usually feed canned food, but this was in 18, and LA had missed dinner. So one of the volunteers was worried that she was hungry and wanted to stop at Wendy's. And I said, no, let's stop and get this. So LA was eating off of a fork, off of a spoon, because gentle, loving dog, but she couldn't see close up, and she would take a finger off if she could. It wasn't a food aggression thing. It was just a food.
Like nearsighted, farsighted.
Yep. So this is our front porch, and I couldn't find the picture. She loved to be just laying outside, and So we ended up putting a toddler mattress outside, and we got her heated blankets, and she spent months and months and months on the front porch. It's fenced and gated. It's a tiny porch, but on this heating pad with our cat snuggled next to her. Just like to hang out there and watch our front yard.
That's so sweet. So how long did she live after diagnosis?
She passed away in the end of March of 19. And I had been in
Wait, so the last time you went to the vet after that eruption, they said 6 weeks,
Mhm.
and that was in 2018,
Yes,
and she still lived until March of 2019.
end of March. And here you see she's snuggling all of the littles. In most of the pictures where there's a dog bed, she's only got one part of her body in there. But she's truly living. We did continue to have problems with a mast cell, with bleeds, and with mast cells, but nothing that required surgical intervention. I'm very sorry. Someone else can tell her story better, I think. Hey, buddy, come here. But as she declined, she still lived. And, people say, oh, they don't have a good quality of life anymore. When that starts to happen, I say, what can we do to bring quality to them? And you would be surprised at what you can change for your dog by putting them in a wagon and taking them for a walk. I think there's a picture of that coming up. But here we were always afraid she was going to smush the littles. That was Melvin. She really had the hots for him. That was another one she really enjoyed being with. But this was a day when she was having a bleed, and what was very odd to me was that this is Sherman, and Sherman, he was not your typical beagle. I think he had been used in a lab, and he didn't leave her the whole day. I would give her a unit, I would give her water, I would check her gums, and I would leave her be. I would just let her rest. He did not leave her side, and I just found that to be very poignant. That's another Melbourne picture. Sorry, I don't mean to overdo the Melbourne pictures, but she really loved them. That was seeing Santa. She's right there next to the dog in the cart.
So how many dogs do you actually have in your house? I have to ask you this.
So it depends. Pre-pandemic, we don't have kennels. They're loose, they're free range. So if you came here, you might have to sit on the floor because all the dogs are in all the chairs on the sofas. But pre-pandemic, 25 to 35.
In your house?
In my house.
And they all got along?
We have, it's a three-bedroom Cape Cod with a 2-car garage. And the other side of that is another 2 rooms that would be an office. And for the dogs, like the shepherd that's in that cart, he didn't really like crazy dogs, and we have a few. So he did better out there. And those 2 rooms, there's TV, there's sofas, there's chairs, there's music. We used to sponsor a date night with volunteers. So go to, bring dinner there. Have it, don't tell me what you're feeding them. I have a really old fashioned DVD player and, movies, or that's DVR player and movies from, a million years ago. And it's a fun place to be. So it's just an extension of that. And it's for dogs that are dog social, but it turns out that they also have their limits. They don't do too crazy.
That's amazing. How many volunteers do you have?
Pre-pandemic, we had about 50. Post-pandemic, I would say we have maybe 3 or 4 that are regular diehards that come out and help with care. And then we have others that help with transport or that kind of stuff. But we're still trying to recover from that time. So that's why now we have between 15 and 20 dogs at our house. During the pandemic, I got very creative in ways to keep the dogs busy. It it was a challenging time. But we figured it out. We worked our way through. I didn't want their quality of life to suffer. We did let our numbers drop by attrition, just for just to make sure. I don't ever want to feel like I didn't give a dog enough of my time, or that I missed something because I was too busy. I don't want that to happen. So to me, making your dog great is that blue blanket is her electric blanket, but the cat's not in there. The whole point was sorry about that.
That's okay.
She would lay on really strange places. You can see here that her belly is very big. After she had several bleeds, they have a bleed. So first off, I want to say, when she would have these bleeds, you don't see any blood. You don't see any blood. They'll pant, they'll be listless, they may be disoriented. But they're very fatigued, and they'll lay in strange positions and in strange places. And you may see their belly get big, and people say, "Oh, I have to go and get it tapped." Their body actually absorbs a good part of it on its own. But after a while, after so many bleeds, she started not absorbing as much as she had. So you could see her liver was actually getting a little bit big, and I'm using my hand. I don't know if my hand is, if I look like a crazy person, but her liver is getting a little large, and her belly is just staying more distended than what it used to be.
I'll be your pointer. There you go.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's interesting that you note how they lay, like you're so in tune to all the little nuances going on here. And I know we talked a lot about hot and cold dogs, energetic, Chinese medicine, but in homeopathy, they'll say one side hot and one side cold. Or yeah, and so when I see her like half lay on a bed, it makes me wonder if part of her is cold and part of her she's cooling down.
So it's so funny you say that, because her whole body being in this bed was my key that she was having a bleed. That was her whole body. And like you'd say, oh, she's fine. She's laying in a bed. She doesn't look comfortable, but she had her whole body in the bed. There was no dogs around her. She was having a bleed. That was
Amazing. Because she never whole body was in the bleed in a bed, so you knew immediately something was wrong.
yeah. And it's just so funny that you were saying one side hot, one side cold. That's so cool.
And this is how we learn, you guys, is just sharing our stories.
So this Chihuahua is our dog, and she's healthy. This dog is blind and deaf. She had kidney failure and she was diabetic. That's LA. She had quite a bit going on. Kirby had cancer, and Maddie had heart issues. And this was life. This was people on the floor playing. This was a squeaky thing that had like squeak. There was like a million squeakers in that sucker. And Terry would just sit on the floor and squeak and scratch and give them love.
That's
that's what we're for through all of this. If we can't say, oh, the cancer is gone, we have to say today was amazing. And so it's little things that we could do to make today amazing.
Well, and I love that you live this out. Like, I know probably most of us would have cut bait and ran and kissed them goodbye, but it's so, through my own practice, I've seen it look really, really dismal. And then they perk up and then they go again. And so people will be like, oh, they gave me that sign. It's the end. I'm like, it may not be the end. Like, Michele, do you get this sense when they're like, okay, I'm done, it's over? Like, how do you gauge when to call it done?
So I have two answers. We have criteria that we use. If they go into respiratory distress and we have no feeling that we can break it, we will sedate them. This was her on which corner walk. She wasn't able to walk much anymore. We took her into the woods. But if they go into respiratory distress and we can't break it and we can't get them comfortable, that is one of the reasons criteria we'll use. The other criteria is seizures that we can't break. So if they stay in a continual seizure, and I don't drive to the vet with them in a continual seizure. I drive to the vet with them heavily sedated. So that's, that's what we're doing, is making sure that they're, heavily sedated. And the last thing is pain that we can't control. And man, is that tough when you get to a point when you're losing a dog to pain that you can't control. But LA was in this body that was getting more distended, and yet she was losing muscle and looking worse. She had actually developed a very small bed sore on her one hip. She really didn't want to eat anymore. She was dying. I wouldn't say that she was horribly painful, but she was dying. And I'm talking to Dr. Morgan, and I said, there's something missing here. Like, I feel like we need a priest. I feel like we need someone to talk to her about letting go. Now, my "it's okay to go" speech is really bad. But I felt like we needed help. And didn't an animal communicator all of a sudden send me a friend request on Facebook? Like, it was like I got off the phone with Judy and boom, this woman sends me a request. And I said, please don't take this the wrong way, but why did you just do that? And she said, I saw something about you and was interested in your mission. And I said, well, could you help me? So with LA, apparently LA was not aware of how her body looked. She was not hungry. She did not feel the pressure sore. What she felt was loved. And we asked for a signal. And the signal was going to be Dr. Brad. And Dr. Brad is the nicest in-home euthanasia veterinarian in the whole world. But if we said, do you want us to call Dr. Brad? If she looked at us, that would mean she was ready. So the next morning, so I don't know if I respect this, but I don't know that I'm like all in with this kind of stuff. So the next day, we're discussing it with another volunteer, and I said, yes, we're supposed to say Dr. Brad. Just hang on here real quick. I was supposed to say Dr. Brad's name, and she'll let us know if she's ready. Well, when I said his name, she sat straight up, like, whoa, no, we're not calling him. So this was, you can see her muzzle is getting full. She's really kind of wasting away. And she's on a stretcher and she's all strapped in. And this is the first time her head was up. But I brought her to my rehab vet where they do water therapy. And they're used to me coming in with a story, I guess. And I said, listen, she's dying. I said, but I'm just looking for ways for her to still use her body that she's still living in. And actually I said, I know she looks like she's dead, but trust me, she's not. She's very much in there. And I said, I would just like to put her on the treadmill. So they have an underwater treadmill. So the water takes the weight off of their joints so they don't have pain. And the belt, they can control the speed. So it just very gently keeps them going at a steady gait. And then they support them with floats and stuff. But I said, I don't, I'll pay for a session, but I don't want a session. I just want her to have a safe way to move her body. And it was very funny because of that, he looks at her and he kind of does look at her like, yes, Michelle, she kind of does look like she's dead. And the next thing I know, he's got tears in his eyes. He says, we'll treadmill her. And then I think the next one is her on the treadmill. Maybe no. There we go. So there's someone in the back and he's actually moving her back legs, helping them to go. She's got a life jacket that's holding her up. And I don't know if anyone has had surgery where they've been immobile for a while, but there is nothing like being tired from doing something that was normal. So here she was, fully upright, seeing the world the way she used to when she was standing up like that. And she went home and she slept. Like she wasn't painful. She was just tired and happy. It was the best thing. And I was so grateful that they allowed me to do this for her. So I think she went one more time after this.
That's amazing.
There she is in her little bed.
Literally, little bed.
Little bed. Oh, okay. The second time she went, our vet came in. He came and carried her in. And again, he's carrying her, so we're not stressing the internal organs. It's okay, buddy. So I thought that was nice of him to carry her in. And she enjoyed it. She enjoyed moving and using her body. I had a double knee replacement and had complication after complication post-op. And I got to tell you, the first time that I emptied half of the top of the dishwasher, I was calling people. Like, you wouldn't believe it. I put the coffee mugs away. Like, it sounds so simple, but it's such an emotional victory. And when you can't get a physical one, an emotional one can still be pretty incredible. So this was just for her to feel good. That was it.
That's amazing. Sarah McKeegan just said it's so important for them to be upright.
It is. So this is my personal dog, and she is dying there. And LA wanted to just be there with her. It was very spiritual. I felt it was just really nice to see two old friends connect like that.
Michelle, it's so interesting that LA just was always kind of there for the other dogs passing, even though she was also in a compromised position. She was kind of the comforter of the.
She was. Her and Melvin, and so her butt is on a bed there. So through all of this, she lived to see the snow, which she enjoyed. And people say, what's the point? You do all this, you spend $75 to put them on a treadmill and they don't exercise, they're just standing up. The point is that the next day it snows and they're well enough to just be out in the snow, to lick the snow, to eat the snow.
So sweet.
That was her. And you can see in the back there on her hip, she's starting to have this skin breakdown. And like I said, the animal communicator said she wasn't even aware of it. And, we were turning her, we were doing everything we could to, not let this happen, but it was still happening. Her body was dying much faster than her soul was. She did not want to leave. She just liked being loved.
When I interviewed Dr. Judy, she basically said, dogs don't know they're sick.
Yeah.
They just, and don't tell them. Like, just don't tell them they're sick.
So I said she liked to lay out front. This was towards when she was dying more. And I should say actively in the dying state, because she was not eating at this point. But I wanted to give her a change of view. So I put a thick mattress out back and, let her have the smells of the back, just to enjoy it, and, kept her covered. This was February. This was a warm February.
And this is how long from that sentence that
was the beginning of June of 18, and this was February or March. I'm sorry, this was March of 19.
they gave her 6 weeks, and she's getting to see one more season, one more winter, one more fall.
Yep. And getting love. This dog had the worst heart issues you could ever imagine. And LA, again, actively dying. You can tell that she's losing her facial tone. She's starting to look kind of just generally swollen. Not painful, just not looking good. And the dogs still want to snuggle and be with her. And, there's beauty to be had. Then we got this guy in, Archie, who had supposedly had osteosarcoma. And he started looking after her.
So sweet. That might be it. Let me see.
It was one of her snuggling, but right here, there's one of her snuggling Archie.
Oh, for some reason, it's like blanking me on this, but you can see it. Let me know. Let me try to. Well, that's it that I can do right now for some reason.
She still could snuggle. And because she could not run us, we put funny hats on her. And, you know, when people do that, so, and you can see how much muscle wasting she had. She did not want to go. She did not want to be euthanized. She did not want help. You know, it was, if we said Dr. Brad's name, then she would, that meant she wanted help. She did not want help, and she did pass very gently on her own. It
So,
was,
so if you said Dr. Brad's name, she always would like rally.
yep. I mean, like really fast, like as if you said incoming. You know what I mean? And Dr. Brad, like I said, he is the most loving, kind, gentle vet in the world. But she stayed in her body longer than her body really could stay. Just for the love, just for the love, which to me, I hate to sound all woo-woo. But you can see it's not like, you know, we took her on ski vacations. You know, my husband carried her on the beach. Most of her pictures, most of our dogs, you see pictures of them up and about outside moving. That was not the case with LA. She just didn't have that much in her. And with her hemangiosarcoma, we didn't want to push, you know, excessively. But so this was how she had a life. And this to her was enough. And this for her was worth fighting through until her dying breath.
It's like she got to be the mama.
Yep.
It's so sweet. Michele, the things you do for your dogs, I mean, like, I wouldn't expect a rescue to go beyond what a pet owner would do, but you literally go beyond what many average pet owners would do. And it's just amazing. So you guys, I hope you were blessed by this. Michele, what was, let me check the time. What were the things that you did for hemangiosarcoma? We know you did the union bio, we know you did the phosphorus as needed.
Very clean diet, no carbs. Mostly we did the artemisinin. I would pulse fish oil. I was very careful with fish oil, with CBD, because that can decrease platelet aggregation and start a bleed or make a bleed harder to stop. But it seems to me that my dogs that were allergic to fish, to every different kind of fish that couldn't get omega-3s that way, they all got cancer. So I'll get fish.
Say that again.
So I had a Cocker Spaniel who was allergic to everything, to makeup, to carpets, everything. He was allergic to every fish source there was, including phytoplankton. And he was with us for heart issues, and he got hemangiosarcoma.
Wow, interesting.
And I thought, like, on my watch, he got it. That was crazy. We had it in another dog that was here with skin issues, chronic. And you can say, well, you know, she had this chronic inflammatory process. It makes sense that she has cancer. Yes, it does. But she also couldn't have fish oil. And I really feel like omega-3s, you know, it's nice to give them their dose every day. If not, I try to get it into them once a week. Like, you know, I think it's important that you find a way around the system.
That's amazing. Yeah, my dog actually has been pretty sensitive to products. And so there's been sardines that are smashed up by Primal. They're called Primal toppers. And that's like the only thing he can eat fish related. And he does really well on that. But regular canned sardines, no. Fish oil supplements, no. But definitely I saw a difference with him. But the blood thinning capability or the blood coagulating capability is really smart to think about. So you were actually considering non-blood thinning thing.
Right.
So turmeric is actually a blood thinner. Would you use it or not use it?
Dr. Morgan and I just had a big thing on, like, excuse me, turmeric, you're afraid of turmeric? I would not give turmeric after a bleed or before full moon.
Before,
Yeah, my it seems like hemangiosarcoma and seizures seem to, not every full moon, but a fair amount of full moons. If there's a predictor, the moon has something to do with it. So that's when I cut anything that decreases platelet aggregation.
I'm going to make a mental note of that, and I'm going to start looking for that. Michele, this has been really insightful, absolutely interesting, fun, you know, as far as fun cancer goes, to know all these little hacks you have learned through your trials. And you guys, Valentine's Day is coming up. And I don't know about you, but I love to do stupid things with my dog for Valentine's Day. And maybe you're going to buy your dogs treats and gifts and do all that. But I'm going to encourage you to make a donation to Monkey's House. So if you guys could find it in your heart, I know Michele's like not holding back on care on these animals, and I'm sure post-pandemic has been tough for her. So please, 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 I will drop the link on how to donate and consider helping and that being the truest Valentine possible. So
thank you enough, Poppy. And if I could just tell everyone, you know, some people choose chemotherapy, and I'm not going to say anything about that, except that they'll say, we have 6 more weeks of this. We have 15 more days of that. We have 11 more treatments of this. And what they're missing is that today is a good day. Today, their dog feels great. It's if you're living from 4 weeks or 11 weeks or 11 treatments, you're missing all of the middle where it's good. Don't do that. However you choose to treat cancer, the way to win, the way to be successful is to enjoy every single moment. Don't let one single day go by without, if it's pouring out, go for a car ride or get a cheeseburger. Do something every single day. That is how you win.
the bucket list.
Bucket list.
And that's the beautiful thing about cancer. If there's anything beautiful about cancer, is you have time to fulfill the bucket list. And I encourage you guys, I did the same with my American Bulldog. His cancer, it wasn't really a cancer, it was a benign tumor, but it was life crushing for him. And everything I promised him that I hadn't done, we did. And I was like, I'm not letting you die without making all my promises fulfilled. And he lasted a whole year, and he was in his cart, and he was a 100-pound bulldog that I drug around and held up and stuck in a cart. And I had amazing muscles from that. And we just did it. We just did it. We went on hikes. We met people. We went to Petco, even though I didn't like to support companies like that. And he'd run up and down the aisles and greet people, and just had a great time. Lots of people took photos with him because he loved being a photo whore. So yeah.
I think doing that helps us travel closer with them on their journey. And there is nothing, when you lose a dog, there is nothing that's going to help you with that grief. But I do think you move through it faster if you have fulfilled a bucket list, if you have been there every day, really focusing on living. I do think that after that day or week or month or year of feeling like you've been shot by a cannonball in the stomach, that you do move faster through it. And I do think that the smiles come sooner. And the pictures, even the pictures of when they're not doing well, because you'll say, like, that they didn't seem that sick, and you'll forget, that they vomited blood the size of a twin bed, unless you find that picture that you sent to your vet at midnight. You know what I mean? It just helps keep in your memory how the journey went and why you made the decisions that you made. I think it helps on the end, because in the end, sorry, I'm a rescue. We need people to keep getting dogs. So it helps you to heal. It helps you to heal.
I think that's wisdom. my own personal dog, he he never declined. You know, like he ran around in this wheelchair, but his bladder froze. And so he had to be in a catheter. We catheterized him all the time. And then eventually it totally froze where he had to have like a permanent catheter. And that's where we had to call it over. But his vitality was good. And his last day, he actually tried to hump a dog in his cart. I was like, man, I should have gotten him a pole dancer. You know, like if I and everybody kept saying, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" I'm like, "You guys, the minute we pull this catheter out, he's gonna go septic and die, and I don't want to be. I I want him humping another dog being my last memory of this dog." And so
I-
yeah,
I- Selling feature for a cart. You know how like some of them are easily adjustable, or some of them can have, you know, 4 legs, or can, you know, adjust as a dog's mobility decreases. Yeah, dogs can hump in this cart.
yeah, you could have bred something,
Great.
and And the poor dog he tried to hump was horrified. I mean, like that, he probably had nightmares for a long time. Anytime a cart rolled by him, he was probably scared. But anyway, yes. So he never even really grayed in the face. He looked amazing to the end. He was an 11-year-old American Bulldog and lived life big smile to the end. Took him in for euthanasia. He bent his head down and laid there and took it and was gone before the needle was out of him.
Ready.
Yeah. So you guys, it's a great conversation. I hope you're blessed by this. And Michele, I don't know how you do it. I've got one dog. It's a bulldog. I am a bulldog lover. They are expensive. I I tell everybody if you're gonna get a bulldog, you need a trust fund. So yeah. So thank you for everything you do. I hope you get lots of sleep and lots of volunteers. And you guys send a little love Michele's way. Send some Valentines to her, please.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your time today.
Thank
Bye.
you, Pop. Appreciate it. Always take care, everyone.